Hello, I'm Bex Baxter, and I'm here to talk to you about periods. Just want you to notice for a moment if there's any discomfort that might be coming up around this subject, and just allow it to be there. Now I want you to compare that discomfort to being bent double, white as a sheet, and feeling repetitive menstrual cramps deep into your belly. Because traditionally, we have spent so much time trying to appease that discomfort of just talking about this subject, and very little time giving the compassion to the hundreds and thousands of women across the globe who every day are suffering because of the taboo around menstruation in the workplace. But we've come a long way, and in the last year, we've noticed that sanitary adverts have cottoned onto the idea that blood is in fact red and not the azure Caribbean lagoon blue that they use to represent it. Scotland have also made great strides towards ending period poverty, and they're aiming to give everyone access to free sanitary products. And Coexist last year made international headlines for our idea to create a menstrual policy. So who are Coexist? Coexist is a vibrant social enterprise based in Bristol and seeks to create social change through community empowerment. I was the director there for 7 years and their people development manager. Coexist is responsible for many, many innovative projects and ideas. But it was 2 years ago when something truly remarkable happened. I saw a member of staff, bent double, white as a sheet, clearly in a lot of pain, over reception and still serving customers. I did what any compassionate human would do, and as her line manager, I obviously told her to go home. But it wasn't as simple as that. She started to shoo me away with those 4 very familiar words. It's just my period. I knew those words in my own mind and in hundreds and thousands of women across the UK. I didn't know it then, but this very British attitude, putting on the brave face, turns out to be a very global response to menstrual suffering. In that moment, I got this bizarre sort of excitement because I knew I could do something. This was a basic human rights issue. And as an innovative company, maybe we could trial something. We could test drive something new and end the suffering and the taboo around menstruation in the workplace. So I got to work, and I invited the amazing Alexandra Pope, co-founder of Red School and co-author of Wild Power. She had an expertise in helping people recognize the innate intelligence of the menstrual cycle. We knew that this was going to be valuable to many other people, so we invited 100 different businesses to come in to learn from her. The media went wild. Periods were being talked about from Bristol to Beijing. We were contacted from as far as the Czech Republic. We were on talk shows in the USA, in Australia, and of course, the tabloids. Let's just say that the response varied massively. But what was really clear was that we'd touched a nerve, and this conversation was alive, and the taboo was being smashed right before our eyes. Surprisingly, some of the biggest initial critics were women. I fully understood that women who had strived so hard trying to create equality in the workplace by being treated the same as men would be really threatened by these ideas. One comment that sticks in the mind is, "You're putting feminism back by 100 years by doing this." But for every criticism, there were voices of encouragement. It felt like we were receiving a thunderous accolade for daring to go into new territory, for saying the unsayable. Women have an innate natural cycle that is intelligent, evolutionary, and life-giving. It is a power, not a problem. And we need to value its potential and not treat it as a sickness. My favorite comment came from a 60-year-old man. He said, "I want to thank you. I've got a wife and 2 daughters, and I've worked my entire life, so I know how important this is." He clearly understood the challenges his family had endured, trying to work within the structures that are designed for men. What he made me realize is that true equality is about valuing difference and accommodating it. The menstrual policy we proposed was fully supported by all the men and women at Coexist. So how did it work? We started by exploring a blanket 2-day paid menstrual leave, but very quickly we realized this wasn't going to work for us. At this time, women were starting to track their cycles and analyze their needs. Departments were investigating how they could support and accommodate staff. But it was clear it was not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution. And why should it be? We're all different, and the nature of our work is different too. It became clear that a Flexi Time model would be our very best fit. This allowed women who were tracking their cycle to plan ahead, take time off, and put it back in. What we realized was that by having the option of paying it back or passing it over to cover staff, all hours were then accounted for. Crucially, menstrual Flexi Time actually relieves the stigma that women are being privileged over men. The moment our policy was in place, I went home and I felt a very strange and unfamiliar sensation. I'm allowed to be here and look after myself. All of a sudden, I realized that the shame wasn't there. And I realized that this was one of my most crucial learnings, and I called it the permission field. It's a culture of trust that relieves the stress, anxiety, and shame of taking menstrual leave. We realized that the fear of these judgments was often crippling and actually increased the suffering brought on by our periods. I have personally suffered with dysmenorrhea for 25 years. This has meant I usually have very heavy and painful periods. Even for me, with the acceptance I felt through the policy, I actually found my periods had become less painful and less debilitating. By listening to my body and resting when I needed to, I recovered quicker and was more effective and productive. But there is another key aspect to this work. We have separated menstruation from sickness. No one should be stigmatized for taking time off for a normal, natural cycle. There are more serious conditions such as endometriosis and premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which will need extra support and care. But so far, our staff have experienced a profound effect on their well-being. But not everybody was ready to accept our ideas right away. Paradigm shifts are generally preceded by resistance. And as I mentioned before, our policy has received a critical response as well as its champions. What we needed next was to be able to explain our ideas and demonstrate the value and importance. And then I met the amazing Lara Owen, a magnificent woman who gave us the language, the science, and the deep systems thinking to develop our policy and address some very valid concerns. Lara is also a leader in the field of menstruation and author of Her Blood is Gold. But it was her background in business that provided the valuable insights into how to create a genuinely effective and robust model. We hope to use this research to convince leaders in enterprise that menstrual flexi time is a valuable tool for organizations to explore worldwide. We've found that it builds commitment, resilience, and increases well-being and productivity in the workplace. I'd like to leave you with some final thoughts. Menstruation is not solely a female issue. It affects everyone. It is the natural cycle that brings new life, and we can no longer ignore that, even at work. None of us would be here today without it, so it unites humanity and should not separate us, which it has done for far too long. So we don't need to fight against our nature. We can work with it, and this will benefit people and businesses alike. So I ask you, let's remember that menstruation is a power, not a problem. It can liberate us to be the best selves, and everyone deserves that right. Let's break through that discomfort of talking about our periods so that they can be valued and integrated into our lives. And together, let's end this workplace taboo, period.